Step 8. Made a list of all people we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. Making a list. Checking it twice. No, you're checking it more than twice. You're going to check it, and then your mentor's going to check it, and then you're going to probably check it a couple more times. I'm just kidding. But, check it a few times. Whatever. Make sure it's thorough. Thorough is good. There's the idea that you can never write too much step work, but you can write too little. If I were working with you and you brought to me 30 pages of a step, I might not read it all, but good for you. Let's get to the heart of the matter here, shall we? Anyways, so you made a list, all the people you'd harmed, and if I were to venture a guess, probably every person you've ever encountered, probably every person you've ever been within 5 feet of, you harmed. Let's just be honest here. And this doesn't mean serious harm, right? Like you didn't kidnap their dog. Obviously, you didn't do that to everyone. Maybe just that once, twice, thrice. Who is going to judge you for kidnapping 3 dogs on 3 separate occasions? Not me, certainly. Hopefully, not a jury of your peers, whatever. But very probably, you may have caused some harm to, let's say, the majority of people. I mean, there's no absolutes, right? Like, you probably didn't harm everyone you met. I'm, being a little facetious, perhaps. But there's a good chance that if you really examine it, you caused some harm to most people that have been. I would say almost certainly for everyone that's been in your life for an extended period of time, and most people you probably just saw on the street. Cut someone off in traffic. You fucking didn't hold the elevator open. There's all kinds of minor things. You just gave gave a dirty look to a clerk. Whatever. There's all these little things that people do when we're triggered or angry or having a bad day that could be counted. And yes, this isn't nothing. A lot of people will say forget all that stuff. That's of no consequence. I would disagree. I think the spirit of this, and even the letter of it, says it made a list of all people we harmed. Some of the people we don't know who they were. We harmed people. I harmed people that I don't know who they were. I harmed people that I will have no memory of harming, and nor will have any memory of harming. It'll never come back. I didn't sleep for a week. I had no idea what happened. But we make a list to the best of our ability. We recall what we can. I was rude to the McDonald's clerk. I threw my money at them because they didn't give me my order correctly. Whatever. The people we don't know, the people we do know, we write their names down. McDonald's clerk, Jimmy, whatever. And we write it down. And a really useful idea behind this, so as not to get trapped, and I believe this is why steps 8 and 9 are separate. We made a list and became willing. We're not making amends yet. We're not even thinking about making amends yet. And the thinking about making amends part is, in my opinion, critical. We pretend and trick yourself however you can. I know you've done it before. You've tricked yourself into some shit. You can do it. Just pretend you're not going to make these amends. You know what I mean? Pretend there is no more steps. Or maybe you just going to write this list and this is the day you die. So you won't have to make them. Doesn't matter. Then you're lucky because that's it. Really, that would be a great case scenario because the freedom and the open-heartedness that comes from the willingness of this step, in my opinion, is a huge gift. If you do this step and you become willing to make amends and take ownership for everything you've ever done that was harmful, everything you've ever done, I think that's a deep spiritual movement. I think that's a real step towards awakening, whatever you want to call it. So if you did this, you made this and then died, that would be not the worst timing, because then you didn't have to make any amends. So let's pretend that's going to happen. Let's pretend you're going to die and that's going to be great. Strange, but whatever. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, please discard it. If you're, terrified of death, as I sometimes am, then well, you probably shut this off already, so it's fine. But anyways, so you make the list, you become willing, forget about the rest, and that's the key part, right? Because there's some stuff that's so hard, or that feels so daunting. It's like, oh, certainly, I could never actually talk to this person again. The first two dogs I kidnapped, like, whatever, it wasn't a big deal. They didn't even seem to like their dogs. But that third dog, I knew she loved Fluffy with all her heart, and I kidnapped her dog. I don't know if I can ever face this. I lost her dog at the park, whatever. I don't know if I can ever face this down. And, so that's why we don't think about the next part. We don't think about the next part. And this is, this is where the whole idea or thinking or resistance of, like, why do I need to go back and make amends to these people? Like, who cares? It's in the past. Let's just leave the past in the past. Let's leave dogs lie. And that's fine, I would suggest, like, try and have some compassion towards that resistance. Like the resistance that has probably served you well up to this point. The resistance that has kept you safe and from doing, harm to yourself or others in some ways, and that's okay. But like, you're on this path perhaps, and this is where it's walking you to, and hopefully you've got some faith in the process by now, and can turn to that, and just like try and keep an open mind to see, without thinking about making the amends, just like see what it would feel like to become willing. To be willing, and like, to just say, like, okay, like, if this person appears in front of me right now, I can see clearly through this inventory what I did, where I was at fault, where I was unskillful, where I was wrong, whatever you want to word it, and I'm willing to take ownership of it, no matter the cost. No matter the cost. No matter the cost. Like, if there's bodies buried, I become willing to take responsibility. Legit. If there's pending charges, if the statute of limitations has not yet been exceeded, I'm willing to take responsibility. You know what I'm saying? Like, for real. Willing. And just open your mind and heart to seeing what that could be like. And that's kind of like all that's being asked here. Like I said, we're not doing amends yet. We're just seeing what this might be like to be open to it. And like, there's a lot to be said here about, like, willingness and intention and motive. Like we become willing to make these amends, but all the while, like, considering, like, like, for me, like, there's some amends that I was, like, really willing to make very quickly. And, like, upon examination, I could be like, oh, like, well, like, I really want this person to forgive me. I really want to be held in high regard by this person again. Like, maybe a girl I mistreated. I want her to see, like, oh, look, I'm an upstanding man now. I don't abuse women anymore. I don't treat them like objects. So I really want to be seen. I want her to remember me, that, whatever, or things like this. These are important motivations to weed out, because often they can lead to getting slapped in the face or just having a bad outcome elsewise, when we eventually do make amends. But the more important part, because like, a slap in the face is annoying, but, like, the more important part is we don't want to short circuit our awakening. At least I don't. I believe that you don't, so I'll say we, like, imagine you want the real article, right? And so to check these motives and to make sure that they're in the right place is important. Is important. And like, then some other like, other amends for me, like, and there are some financial amends for me that you can bet I did not or do not want to make, and I'm, like, unwilling, and all these sorts of things, and had to, like, look into that and why that was. And some of it was, like, there was some real stuff. I was like, oh, like, I can't possibly, like, in my life, like I've been a student, like a university student for some time, and very low income of like student loans and things. So like, how am I going to make these amends? And the real truth was that, well, I can't yet because like, I'm dipping a little bit into nine here, but like, we don't make amends that are going to hurt us. So if I like go pay this money back and can't pay my rent, that's not good, right? So there's, so sorting out some of these things that's a lot of the part of step nine, but it's not horrible to tune into as we do this step eight. Like just because it can offer us some insight when we are making our list. Like, oh man, I'm really excited about this one or scared of this one. And like I did, like of course I stand by what I said about like just pretending we're not going to do step nine, we're going to die after this list, whatever. But there's also something to be said about honestly acknowledging that we become willing to make all these amends to every person we ever hurt. Every person, institution, organization we ever caused harm to, we became willing. But that doesn't mean we're going to have to make amends to all of them. And that should be just, and that might be useful to think of here because it often does. It can be helpful. Going back to the whole idea of like every relationship we probably caused some harm and so forth. And like there's lots of relationships in our lives that, well, at least in my life, and I'm going to assume yours because it seems like it's pretty ubiquitous, that great harm or medium harm or light harm was done to me by a person, and that can obviously be a barrier to willing to make amends. There's been lots of great harms done to me, as I'm sure there has to you, and it can be blinding. It can be blinding, and even limit one's ability to recognize our part. Like if someone like a caretaker maybe or a relative like abused you in some way over a long period of time, over and over again, it can be really hard to acknowledge that like you were also very passive aggressive to them on a regular basis because like what like something like this, right? And like because like maybe they were doing such outrageous things to you, it's like really easy to overlook that like I was taking shots at them. I was bringing some snark because what they have done just it seems so like not even comparable. And there's lots of situations where that's very true, that the harm you caused was dwarfed by what has been done to you, no doubt. But I mean, what the point of this step is, this is your inventory, right? Like we're looking at us, we're turning inward here, and I just want to say that all that stuff that was done to you, it's real. It is real. The harm was real. I believe you. Like I haven't heard you, but I believe you. You know what I mean? Like I believe it happened. And I didn't know that. Like there was stuff that happened to me that I couldn't believe, and I didn't know it was real. It's like people mistreated me, and I was gaslit, and I was totally questioning my own reality and what was real. So I just want to say that to you, like it's real. I believe you. Like, and I'm only responsible for my part. I got no responsibility on that side of the street. You know what I mean? Like all I can do is like take care of my own inner world, and set boundaries, obviously, right? Like with people that have harmed me over and over, I can limit how much they enter in my life or in my life at all. That's what I can do in that way. But elsewise, I can still take responsibility for my part because it's not about like giving them any kind of like apology or whatever, right? Like this stuff is all about like cleaning out the hate in my heart. You know what I mean? Like holding on to resentments feels so bad. You know what I mean? Like holding on to like, but like I'll never be willing to like make amends because they did this. Like who's that hurting? Not the other person. I mean, unless you're like actively like fucking doing stuff to them, like if you're like running around knifing their tires or like sending them like gnarly like letters, like mail with like letters cut out of magazines and like just crazy stuff to freak them out. Like if you're doing that kind of stuff, then yeah, you definitely affecting them. But like probably probably this like any resentments and unwillingness to make like take care of your own side of the street is just hurting you. I know that's the case for me. Like some of the stuff like I was, with Dad, I was waiting on those amends from him. Let me tell you, I was like, man, like, when are you gonna say some stuff about this? When are you gonna say this shit? And I was mad for like a few years. Like I was like, I'm not gonna tell my dad's story here, but I was anticipating some amends because of the situations of both of our lives at the time, and I was like, where are these amends at, dude? And I was unwilling, but like then I became willing to do my own stuff and let go of any need to be acknowledged, forgiven, acknowledged or an apology. And then I went and made my amends, and at the same time I got some back. That's like that's not always the way it works. Some people will never say or admit or acknowledge. I was lucky in that case. Some people will like just not, and that needs to be okay with me. That needs to be okay. So, in conclusion, yeah, this is a step all about willingness, responsibility. Like willing to own my stuff regardless of what the other person has done, will do, or won't do. And it's not about them. It's about me getting free. This whole thing is about me getting free. And for me, the steps are processed to being just as free as I can be. And I know if I do them open-heartedly, to the best of my ability. I don't have to do it perfect or some kind of superhero level stuff. I just do the best I can with it, and it's gonna get me freedom and more freedom. Who doesn't want that? Who doesn't want that? I know this step 8 and 9 process can be it can be a heavy place, and something that works for me a lot when I'm digging into this stuff can be forgiveness meditations. If you are or aren't familiar with that, that's a thought. There's lots available all over the place. So may you be willing, and may you reap the rewards of it.